Guardian Tales YouTube, what is up? Today we are doing 11 through 20. Previously we did the 1 through 10. If you want to see that video, check it out here. Now, I know what you're thinking. A lot of you are like, hey, where's this character? Where's that character? Oh, you guys are a lot more intelligent than that. I don't know why I said it like that. Before we get too far into this, just remember, guys, that we are giving away 100 Bezos bucks, which are Amazon gift cards, if we can get to 2,000 subscribers. And you know what, guys? If we can do that by the end of December, so by the end of 2020, I'll double it. All you gotta do is subscribe, like this video, every other video, and comment on videos. You get entries into the competition for each comment that you have on a video, as long as it's like appropriate, you know? With that said, guys, let's hop right into this.
Hey, listen.
Just do it!
This is why I didn't exactly take everything people were talking about last time. Bianca's definitely better than Lupina. Bianca's definitely better than Lon. This is why I didn't pay too much mind to it, because I did tell you guys that 8 through 12 was completely negotiable in my mind. And here we have Bianca, who I have currently ranked at number 11. Now, you look at Bianca's stats here and you see 7s across the board, and I can instantly tell you that a lot of people are going to be like, Bianca's damage is 10. She's a 10 in PvP. She's a 10 in PvE. She's a 10 in utility. She's a 10 at tank. And I'm going to go ahead and say this flat out. Some of y'all are really freaking good at Bianca, and other y'all are trash. And y'all know exactly who you are. Bianca is probably the most intricate and, in my opinion, hardest champion to play in this game, especially when it comes to arena, especially when it comes down to laning those abilities appropriately. For that reason, Bianca has all the carry potential in the world that you need. She can do an insane amount of damage, and she can limit the amount of damage that you put out. So she's really good at PvE and PvE at the highest levels, but you have to be able to play her very, very effectively. She is so much harder than someone like Lon is. She is so much harder than someone like Lupina is. And so for that reason, I have her at number 11. So please don't take her being at 11 as a knock. I think some of the best Bianca players in the world could tell you that she's probably in the top 3. She's ran at the highest levels of PvP because of that reason. And I would kind of agree with you in some senses. But overall, I don't think that Bianca is somebody that you would look at as going, this is the strongest champion. Everybody needs to sell their soul for this champion. Like a lot of people have tried to do, barring Nari and Marina over the past few months. There you go. Number 11, Bianca. And number 12, we have Vishuvac. Vishuvac comes in at the last of that 8 through 12 range that I told you is completely interchangeable in my mind. And Vishuvac's ratings, as you can see, are a bit diverse. I think that Vishuvac has a really strong potential when it comes to damage output, and her damage output is pretty straightforward. You don't have to try too hard to get a good amount of damage out of Vishuvac. And she does provide a decent amount of tanking through straight up statistics. Her statistics are not that bad. She is a frontline unit, and she is a get in your face type of unit, so she has to be pretty good at being a tank. She is currently above average. She is not a defensive type as a lot of other ones are that get above the 7s and 8 range, but she is an above average unit when it comes to defense and HP. She doesn't have very many minute multipliers within her kit that increases it, so she can become increasingly tanky if you're pairing her with the right units in Coliseum. But for arena's sakes, she's kind of like slightly above average, slightly worse than Eugene when it comes to tankiness. And when it comes to utility, she doesn't really pump out utility. She does have some CC, but it's not great. It's kind of hard to land. So for PvP, she's really good in arena. She's really good in certain Coliseum compositions, and you could definitely run her as your primary option if you wanted to. And in PvE, I think she's just above average. I don't think there's anything in her kit that goes, she's a must in PvP or PvE, but she definitely can be ran and ran really well. So I feel like these numbers are pretty appropriate. I think that a couple of purists for Vishuvac could say that she could be higher in a couple categories, but honestly, this feels about appropriate to me. And having her at 12 as high as number 8 feels about the right range for Vishuvac. Now we're getting into the more interesting selections in my mind. Akayuki here at number 13. Oh man, Akayuki, she brings a lot of interesting things to the table because she is one of the highest DPSs in the game. She does not do AoE damage, guys, but single target DPS, she's off the charts. She has one of the highest crit rates when you have that weapon. She has the highest base attack outside of Bari in the game, and she dashes around like a freaking mad woman. Okay, she is a very, very fun, intricate, and bursty type of champion. Obviously, her downsides are that she is a frontline unit without incredibly interesting frontline statistics. She just gets on top of you and bashes you in the face with her sword, doing a ton of crit damage, but she's fairly fragile. She's not like Bari level fragile, but she's pretty fragile, and she offers no utility whatsoever. So for that, she's as much of a glass cannon when it comes to glass knives as physically possible in this game, and she can be ran very effectively in PvP, especially arena in my mind, where it's pretty easy for her to stay on top of people even if they have dashes. And then in PvE, she's above average, but the fact that she can die fairly easily very much limits the amount of boss content that you would want to run her in. Overall, Akayuki is one of my favorites in the game though, so putting her at 13 may be slightly biased, but I think that it's also well deserved. And then at number 14, we have Plitvice, guys. Plitvice to me is a very, very strong champion when it comes to PvE. I think she's appropriate in PvP, but she's definitely not a PvP focused champion. She is a PvE beast, and she is both a damage and a tank in a lot of instances. And they are changing her attack speed and attack length, and that would also just kind of increase the damage output that she can do. So overall, I think Plitvice is one of the most balanced champions for free-to-play players that the game offers you. She can be your hyper carry, and she's a fire type, which is the easiest for people to excel at as a free-to-play option. So Plitvice makes a ton of sense as the free option, or the free nat 3 that the game gives you at in-game. For all of those people that are looking to continue to succeed, have good team compositions, and get the most out of the game at a casual level, she is a very, very good unit, but she is not a great unit. Next, I have Arabelle here, and this goes a little different from my dark rankings, guys. And in my dark rankings, I actually have Gremory higher than Arabelle, and a lot of that has to do with her ability to be farmed, how easy it is to get Gremory to the highest level possible and to get the most out of her kit. And because these are impacts guides, when you have Arabelle at in-game, which is kind of hard, and something like accessibility isn't something that I'm factoring into this list, she can have a very, very strong impact in the game. She is a very, very strong AoE DPS. If you have her unique weapon, her damage can get very, very high, and you pair her with critical people, and she can really pump out the DPS. She's very strong in Coliseum in my mind, and she's very good in any situation where you can control the primary damage output, but she is very, very weak. She offers no utility. She can't get the utility buff that I gave to Bari, where it's literally her utility is that she one-shots people. She doesn't one-shot people. People do have the ability to counterplay her very easily, but in situations where there's a large amount of enemies, or it's in Coliseum where the AI isn't always focusing the right targets, Arabelle can be very strong. So for that reason, she edges out Gremory in this specific case, but not the dark case. And here we have Aisha. Now this champion to me is, I'm going to go ahead and say, the most unique in the entire game in my mind. I can't really think of many champions like her in any game, period. She is first and foremost a tank only that provides you critical rate up for the entire team and gives you defensive statistics. I don't really see that ever. Generally, defensive people focus on defense and providing that buff to you, but she goes out and tanks and makes sure that the rest of your team can do damage and provide you a decent amount of CC. I think for PvE, she is remarkably strong, and for PvP, she is exclusively Coliseum only. If you're running her in Arena, you're just straight up failing. So she is a high utility champion with good defensive statistics. She is not a true blood tank, and she sacrifices that to give you more utility elsewhere, but she does a really good job at it. To me, she's super unique and she's super strong when used effectively. and I led into it a little bit earlier. Next up, we have Gremory. Gremory is always slept on, in my opinion. She has very, very high AoE DPS. She has very, very strong utility, both in terms of sacrificing the opponent's attack and defense. She's very effective in Coliseum. She's pretty hard to pull off in Arena, I will tell you that. But for PvE circumstances, for dungeon circumstances, for mirror rifts, for getting things done quicker, for putting things on auto farm, Gremory is super, super strong, and her attack speed is higher than Bari, and she brings a lot more utility to the table. She's not nearly as good as your true DPSs, but that utility when paired with other dark units can really do a lot of damage, because you're also helping your other units like Lupina, like Arabelle, like Use. Overall, Gremory is just a very strong unit. Oh man, Elf. Oh, I don't truly understand this champion, but he is what he is. He is slightly tanky. He has a slightly good base attack. He brings utility to the table. He can be run very effectively in Coliseum, and he's pretty good in PvE. He's just fairly good across the board. He's not great in literally anything, and he can't be great in literally anything. I don't really understand why he is a Nat 3 in complete honesty, but he is the stronger version of Marvin by design, and Marvin can be ran very effectively in free-to-play compositions, especially when it comes to Coliseum. So for that reason, obviously Alef has to be a strong unit. It's just not truly persistent in the way that it showcases itself. He's not someone you're ever going to look at and be like, I need to build my team around this guy. And so that's why you kind of see his statistics the way that he is. He is very much a glue piece. Oh, Sohee. Oh my gosh, girl, you do some crazy DPS at times. You are one of the best units for free-to-play players to truly prioritize to build around. I really enjoy the output that she gets in light unit compositions. Light unit got a pretty large buff to it when it came to getting Future Princess within its class. She can be your primary DPS and light unit compositions, and she can do that very effectively. Overall, though, her DPS is on the lower side for true DPSs, but because she can offer such a good amount of AoE damage in the process, she has a very strong attack rate, and with her unique, she can chain that damage off to other people. She's very strong. She is very average across the board, or I should say slightly above average across the board for both PvP and Coliseum. And there are units that you can fit into compositions very effectively that may have more of an impact than Sohee. I would think that Sohee across the board just has more general impact. And so that's why I think she fits here pretty nicely. And then we have Karina. At some point, these healers had to start coming into play, and I think in terms of healing, Karina is the most universally applicable. Her damage, or her healing over time, her burst healing is pretty strong. She is not a good damage output source. She is not a good tank. She is not good in Arena whatsoever. You can run her effectively in Coliseum, but by the time that you get very strong units and you're getting higher in Coliseum, you're not really running a healer outside of Maya or Mia anyways. But for PvE purposes, when you need those healers going into bosses, she is very, very appropriate, and she's very strong because of her healing capabilities. So that's why she slots here. She's one of 3 that I would consider to be rainbow healers. You don't have to pigeonhole her to dark teams, where someone like Aoba, if you're running her outside of earth teams, you're losing a lot of that utility. And guys, here we have our honorable mentions. These units here are very, very strong. They just barely missed the cut in my mind, and they were all in factoring into the factor when it comes to number 20 at minimum. If you have these units as well, you can consider them very strong and just missing out. Now, guys, we will not be doing a 21 through 30. It is very, very convoluted at that point. It is very hard to justify anyone over the other options. But if you want to see a true tier list from me, guys, I do have one on my Patreon. My Patreon isn't truly something I am pushing right now. I'm still working out the kinks and the interesting aspects of it. I haven't landed on a programming style that I actually want out of it. But if for whatever reason you think that my thoughts on a true tier list and ranking for every unit in the game is something that you want to see, it's up there right now. Truly, I don't expect anyone to do it. So guys, with that said, thank you for your time and your attention. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Leave me some love in the comments or some hate if you really disagree with me. Let's just keep it civil. Take care.